Yes. Vijay.
Thank you. So you know I'm the filler today. Good afternoon and welcome to our after lunch spring conference session. And let me say again, it's indeed a pleasure to be among peace activists who are a driving force to change in our world. Thousands of years of conflicts and wars span over history of world civilization. The world is getting more and more violent, and there are wars in 30 locations in the world. And wars and violence affect our capacity to address global challenges of crushing poverty, protecting the environment, eliminating nuclear weapons, terrorism, and refugees on a large scale. Security situation today is more dangerous now than the Cold War, as we live in an interconnected, interdependent world, and incidents in any part of the globe affect us all. So violence and wars have to be consigned to history for humankind to make progress for a peaceful future, as peace is an essential prerequisite for building a safer society in which we can live in harmony. So in next 10 or 15 minutes, whatever I've got, I'm going to examine or explore root causes of conflict and put forward some innovative approaches for promoting a culture of peace and non-violence and peace building in the 21st century. So, culture of violence, needless to say, pervades in our society, glorifying war rather than educating populace. And the military spending, 1.46 trillion, perpetuates a culture of violence and hostilities. And the idea of the military-industrial complex, the Pentagon, the CIA, and all these military elites is to continue such conflicts because they've got a vested interest. They have to make profit. And it's a major cause of ongoing wars. You can see America hasn't stopped after 2001. There is war, 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 war. Afghanistan, Iraq, Afghanistan, and it goes on. Escalation, another reason for root causes of violence. Escalation of small arms and light weapons, which are 800 million in circulation in parts of the world. Another reason, terrorism, fundamentalism, and radicalism. Another reason, economic globalization and the gap between the rich and the poor. Another reason, the environmental degradation or overuse of environmental resources. As people have said again and again, the wars in Sudan, Middle East, etc. are climate change wars or water wars. Ethnic, religious, and radical intolerance. In the past, holy wars were conducted under the shield of just war, which is now reflected in the extremist ideologies of militants. Lack of protection and respect for children, youth, and women. Lack of democracy and just global governance. The role of media in one-dimensional reporting and distortion of facts. Mass media is also responsible for violence, crimes, wars in our society. The level of poverty and hunger of 1/6 of the world's population living on $1 a day. Refugees and internal displaced population runs into hundreds of millions in different parts. And failing states, which are an international problem, and another cause of conflicts and wars. These are some of the causes of violence and wars. I'm going to go through some of the alternatives I think we should adopt to offset these root causes of war, which are supporting the role of UN in peacekeeping operations, which one of the speakers said the US deploys 120,000 people in 18 locations on 5 continents, and UN is one of the best examples of enforcing keeping building peace in the world. Complying with UN Charter, which prohibits states to go to war. Bringing Security Council reforms for fair representation, more democratization, and increasing the peacekeeping budget. finding out the root causes of terrorism and tackling, promoting reasons to make the 21st century the century of soft power, dialogue, diplomacy. And in any case, there are good reasons to avoid war, which is war is expensive and one needs to reduce the military spending and adopt a culture of peace and prevention of warfare. Violent conflicts can be prevented with rapid reaction force or civilian peace mission, which we heard in the morning session. Applying responsibility to protect the doctrine and international law, to stop genocide, war crimes and crimes against humanity, holding truth and reconciliation commissions as one in South Africa, and we need TRCs in countries like Sudan, Pakistan, Afghanistan and the Middle East region, campaigning to ban US military bases. At the moment, there are 750 military bases and 130 countries. It's a military juggernaut, and as I said before, they just continue waging conflicts on a permanent basis. And as you can see, from 2001, we never had a respite for 10 years. Protecting civilians in armed conflict and avoiding cover-ups. Campaigning for Article 9 of the Japanese Constitution, which rejects war and militarism. Promoting education and non-violent ways of ending conflict. In other words, promoting culture of non-violence and non-killing, replacing the gun culture. Talking to terrorists and learning from the Northern Ireland peace process. I think it's one of the peace agreements in the world, which is Northern Ireland, which is now held up as a beacon for conflict resolution around the world. And we need to talk, even if we have to talk with Taliban or whoever, we need to talk and sit around the table and do, and that is more, that's less expensive and more fruition. Promoting the role of activism for an active campaign, promoting the work of Human Rights Council, to reducing the global incidence of wars and military spending a new Millennium Development Goal. All that money we spent on wars, and we are lagging behind the Millennium Development Goals, which are going to be completed in 2015. And one of the things is to divert the profits or the military industrial complex to those areas. And of course, to work for promoting democracy, good governance and multilateralism. Now there are examples in history where non-violent struggle has been successful and has proved to be more powerful than the guns. The Indian independence movement, whereby Gandhi campaign of non-violent action outstayed the British from India. The US civil rights movement and the role of Martin Luther King. The orange, the velvet, and the rose revolutions in Eastern Europe. And recently, the fall of Berlin Wall and reunification of Germany. Not a drop of blood has been shed on all these things which I just said. And I'm just going to suggest 3 action points. 1, making your borough a borough of peace or your city a culture of peace city. Number 2, creating a peace and non-violent media center. Around 2 billion people across the world are connected to the internet via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and MySpace, among other social networks. Let us use them for spreading peace. And the third one is global peace and non-violent leadership summits and ambassadors for peace, which we are discussing. And the reason being that leaders can, if we have leaders who can take the message of peace and non-violence to the wider society, I think half the battle is won. Albert Einstein and Bertrand Russell warned us in 1955, manifested that the human race has a choice. We can renounce war or we can bring about our own end. This is even clearer now than it was half a century ago. Knowing this, countless billions of people ardently want peace. The people of Britain want peace. But what right do our leaders continue to impose the curse of war on an unwilling world?